y'all, welcome and welcome back. So today I do have some stories that you guys have sent me to read. These have been sent to me over the years. I may have read one or two of them on here. I may not have. I have no idea. But I went and picked out 5 of the creepiest stories that are based in the Appalachian Mountains to share. These are ones that have really just gotten under my skin and just really, they're a lot. So if you like Appalachian stories, hang out with me and listen to some creepy tales. As always, Appalachia or not, obviously, you can send from anywhere in the world, but if you have any stories, long or short, that you would like for me to read, please send them to the email in the description. Just make sure to put YouTube in like the, header bar thing or somewhere at the beginning so I know where to read them. But without further ado, let's get into it. My dad grew up in the Appalachian Mountains and raised me to be respectful and cautious of the woods, especially at night. He told me stories of things he experienced from his childhood. For a long time, I thought they were just ghost stories, but I continued to be cautious when in the woods, especially at night. My family moved north and no longer live in the Appalachians. I'm a college senior, and me and my friends decided to go on a spring break trip to the beach last March. In order to get to the beach, we have to drive through the mountains at night, basically from 2 to 5 in the morning. I volunteered to take that shift in our drive since I had experience with the mountains and driving in the snow. I told my friends that I would like one of them to stay awake with me during that stretch since that area made me nervous at night. One of my friends agreed, but shortly fell asleep, of course. The drive was going smooth until I noticed that we were running low on gas. I woke my friend up and had her start looking for the closest medium-sized town and a 24-hour gas station. I didn't notice until we were pulling into the gas station that it was a little mom-and-pop owned gas station halfway up the mountain, surrounded by the woods. We didn't have enough gas to try and find a better place to stop, so I decided to be brave and get out and pump my gas while my friends slept. About halfway through the fill-up, I heard my name being called. It should be noted that we were the only people at this gas station other than the owners inside. I peeked into the car and both of my friends were still sleeping. I was a little creeped out, but decided maybe it was just the wind. Then a few minutes later, I hear my name called again, louder this time, and I heard rustling leaves in the woods next to the pump. I finished the fill-up and quickly got in the car and locked the doors. As the drive continued, I had a very uneasy feeling in my gut, and I kept seeing a shadow-like figure keeping pace on the side of the road. I saw multiple deer on the side of the road just standing there watching the cars. They looked different than any deer I'd ever seen before. They were ridiculously thin and seemed a lot taller. I only got a glance at one of their faces, but it was deformed, almost like it was decomposing. I quickly looked away and focused on the road ahead, avoiding looking at the side of the road any longer. When my friends woke up, I told them what happened, and they laughed at me, telling me it was the lack of sleep making me hear and see things. I'm naturally a night owl, and I'm normally up this late anyway, so I wasn't tired and knew I wasn't seeing things. I heard the stories of these things living in the woods, but to actually experience it firsthand was bone-chilling. The drive back was a week later, and thankfully during daytime, but I still refused to look anywhere but the road or cars ahead of me. Since I found your account, it's helped me make sense of the things that happened on that drive and make me feel better that I'm not the only one that has seen these things. That one scares me every time I read it. Like, I've went back and reread it several times because it's just terrifying, and I don't like it. It scares me so bad. The next story is about someone who moved away from Appalachia and got followed because you're not safe anywhere. These things follow you. I just moved to Mississippi from Appalachia and I think something followed. I got settled in my small 1-bedroom house about a month ago and the first week was ridiculously calm. But by the second Wednesday after moving in, I went to a local gas station for a late night snack. It's around 12 at night at the time, and when I pull back into my house and get out of the car, I swear I could feel pressure shift. It felt like something was watching, the same feeling I would always get living with my parents in Appalachia. While living in Appalachia at the age of 19, I was on a trail with my little brother, Boston, behind our parents' house. While walking, I was whistling a song to myself when my brother froze and whispered at me to stop. Please stop. I was confused until I realized what I had just done, so me and my brother acted like it didn't happen and calmly exited the trail and went back home. But later that night, there was a terrible scream that sounded like it was coming from the trail, and my dad ushered us all to get to the house. All my mind lets me remember is the scream that erupted from my little brother's mouth after looking through the glass doors facing the trail. A tall, 4-legged shadow creature with glowing red eyes is how my brother describes it. I immediately motioned for him to look away, and my mom rushed over and shut the curtains while staring at the ground. I, 23 years old now, truly believe I called whatever that was. Because getting out of that car and reliving the past 4 years of my life all at once is truly a shakening feeling. The creature was looking at me outside through the bedroom window, which is positioned in front of the driveway, with a gaping mouth and sunken eyes, bright red. I got in my car and pulled slowly out of my driveway and booked a hotel. The hotel was an hour and a half away, but it wasn't the only experience that I would have. I'm just too nervous to explain the rest. I'm moving again soon, and maybe it's hunting me, or maybe it's just tagged along with me to Mississippi. But wherever that thing is, I don't want to be. I didn't think Appalachian creatures would do half of the things this one has done, but it's haunting me, and I'm desperate for an escape. If you have any tips, I would love to know. And I, of course, gave them tips, and I sincerely hope that it didn't follow them when they moved again. But that is something that's not talked about enough, in my opinion, is that these things follow you. Like, they do. They don't care. You are a game. They are obsessed with you, and they will hunt you. It doesn't matter. Like, it's a lot. All right, let's read another. My dad grew up in Pennsylvania, and we have a house out there for vacations. We live in a pretty secluded area, and it's a private neighborhood with only about 30 families. The area has around 4 patches of woods, one being a 2-minute bike ride length from our house. Now, I'm going to start off with the help I need. I have 2 younger brothers, one of which is very exploratory. He loves going out in the woods and sometimes won't come home until 2 hours past dark. This has never scared me until I learned about the dangers of Appalachia. We're going back out there soon, and I need help trying to warn both of them without actually scaring them too much. I don't think I've read this one yet, so I'm just going to pop in with some advice. If you ever want to warn someone of something but don't want to scare them, say it's for the wildlife. Bears, wolves, coyotes, whatever you want to say, because that's also a danger. Being out that late at night, it's really dangerous. So I would just say that. Just be like, don't be out late, because, what if there's a mountain lion just, trailing behind you? That's what I would say. Now time for my story of my experiences out there. So as I shared before, it's very secluded, and we are usually the only ones on our bikes out there because most of the people who live around us are elderly or have no children. I wake up early and go back to bed, but on this particular night, I just couldn't sleep. So I went out on the back porch to look at the stars, and there was still a little bit of fire burning from a few hours before. Everyone was sleeping except me, and as I went to sit on my chairs by the fire, I hear leaves crunch next to me. I whipped my head around and nothing was there, but every few minutes I would hear it again. I assumed it was a squirrel or moles because there's a lot of them out here, but as I was sitting there, I heard something whisper my name. I thought it was my dad because it sounded exactly like him, so I didn't turn around, and I just said, "I can't sleep, I'll be in a few minutes," to which there was no response. Again, my name was called, except it sounded farther away, which I knew meant something was wrong and something was close. So I kept my eyes down and stared only at the door and walked inside, to which in the reflection I saw a figure almost as tall as me, I'm 5'2", and I stupidly bolted inside and up the stairs, which had woken up my dad. He walks upstairs and asked me about the situation, to which I explained it to him. He told me that he had gone to bed early and had everyone inside early because as he was trying to put out the fire while everyone was eating inside, he heard his name being called, followed by a blood-curdling scream. I'd never been so scared to hear that, so the next morning I walked out to the fire pit and the only things I saw were large footprints. It wasn't human, nor was it hoof, just 2 indents in the ground with toes. Oh. Alright, let's read one more story. I think I said 5, but I accidentally picked a story that was not really Appalachian folklore related. It was just a haunting in Appalachia. So we're just going to do 4. But if you guys like these, I'm so down to just do an Appalachian story series because they're terrifying. Last November, my family and I flew out to the Florida Keys for vacation. Unfortunately, our time was cut short due to a hurricane. It was supposed to hit the day we were flying out, so we decided to make the 22-hour drive back. Once our trip started, my family decided to rent an Airbnb in Chattanooga, Tennessee as a halfway point. The plan was to get a few hours of sleep and get back on the road bright and early. We were set to arrive around 1 in the morning, however we got a flat tire, and that set us back about 2 hours. Anyways, once we got that figured out and we were back on our way again, I got to looking at the area around the Airbnb. And to my surprise, we were going to be staying in the Appalachian Mountains. Arriving at 3 in the morning, instantly I had a gut-wrenching feeling. I'm no stranger to the paranormal experiences, especially figures, but that's a story for another time. But I try to stay calm and not mention anything to my family. They don't believe in anything beyond the basics of this world. Me, however, well, I worried the rest of the way until we finally arrived. When we went into the driveway, I grabbed my shower bag and ran inside. To my surprise, all of the curtains were drawn back. I ran around, closing every single one, focusing my gaze on the floor, too scared to look up. I was so scared, but eventually my body caught up to my mind and I couldn't fight sleep any longer. I decided to turn on the lamp and try to snooze for a few hours, but every time I laid my head down and would close my eyes to fall asleep, my ears would ring. I was so scared I refused to open my eyes, afraid of what was around me. I guess at some point I'd finally somewhat fallen asleep, but it didn't last long. I was awoken by screaming, like a long drawn-out scream, but it was almost as if it was just in my head, like I was the only one that was experiencing it. I was frozen with fear for what felt like forever, and eventually I opened my eyes and reached over to my cousin's bed, shaking her to see if she was awake, and she wasn't. I think at this point I had realized whatever was going on was only happening to me, so I closed my eyes and didn't open them until everyone else was up. When we set off in the morning, I asked everyone how they slept, and no one mentioned hearing or waking up. I tried to mention what happened to me, but they shrugged it off as a bad dream. I don't think it was. I don't know what happened, but boy, was I glad to be out of there. That one's so scary. Anyways, that is all for the stories. I hope you loved them. And like I said, if you guys want an Appalachian story series, I can absolutely do that because they have my heart. I live here. I've always lived here and I love the stories. So just let me know on that. And yeah, I will see you guys in a few days. Bye.